Hello and welcome to day 17 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing a Cricut paper craft project every day for 20 days. Today we're going to be making this layered shadow box design, and I'm going to show you my little trick for cutting things when your paper is smaller than the frame. For example, on this design, this frame is bigger than my A4 sized paper. So what did I do? I cut it from my regular paper, even though it was too small for the frame, but I've tricked it by adding an extra piece of card inside. I'll show you how to do that into Design Space to make sure that if you're cutting something that ends up a bit smaller than the frame, don't worry, it will still fit beautifully. The SVG for this shadow box is free for the next 24 hours. If you're not already registered for the Halloween Craft Countdown, go to crafterssarah.com/HCC to register your free ticket. If you are registered, here's how to download the Shadowbox cut file. If you've already registered your free ticket, check for an email from me with subject line Halloween Craft Countdown ticket information, or any of the other emails from me that you have been sent throughout the countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down this page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at crafterssarah.com/HCC bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files and projects from the Halloween Craft Countdown. All downloads come in zip folders. You will need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the Shadowbox SVG into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then go into Upload over on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer, or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder, and then go into Cut Files, and then inside here there are 3 different file types. For Cricut Design Space, you need the file which starts SVG in the file name. The other 2 won't work correctly in Cricut Design Space, so make sure you do choose that one which starts SVG. I'll drag and drop it in, and then it should look like this with all of the layers one on top of the other. If yours looks different and you can see all the layers separate on the screen instead or next to each other, that means you've accidentally uploaded the wrong file type. So if that's the case, click Cancel down here and then try again and make sure you choose the one which starts SVG. Click Upload and then it will appear in your recent uploads, so you can click on it and press Add to Canvas. You will need to resize this to fit in your frame. To do that, measure the frame and the spacer inside. Let's see how to do that. First, we need to measure our shadow box frame so that we know how big to make the design in Cricut Design Space. I've taken the back off of my frame, and now I'm going to lift out the wooden spacer inside. And then we can measure it from one side all the way to the other. So mine is 8.5 inches. Now my cardstock that I use is mostly A4 size, as that's what we can get the most of in the UK. And I can only cut a maximum of 7.75 inches from that size paper, which means I cannot size my A4 paper to fit in this frame. It'll be too small and just fall through the middle. Luckily, there's a way we can kind of hack ourselves around that in Cricut Design Space so that we can cut it from A4 paper and get it to fit the frame. Let's find out how to do that. So let's say my frame was 8 inches in width. I could click on this and then go 8 in the width and the height, and they'll change together because I've got my padlock icon closed. If yours is open, then click on it to close it before you resize it. Now this would be great if I had cardstock that I could actually cut at 8 inches, but I don't. I have A4 paper, which the maximum width you can cut that is 7.75 inches. So let's set my shadow box to 7.75 and I'll show you a little hack for how we can fit this in the shadow box, even though it's smaller than the frame. This does rely on you having 2 bits of cardstock that are the correct size though. So I've got 1 bit of yellow I'm going to use on the front and then a piece of black for the back. And these are both 12 by 12 inches, so I'll be able to do this trick. All right, so first we need to go into shapes and choose a square down here and make this the size of the frame, so 8 inches. And then we'll zoom out. I'm going to cut one of these from black and then right click and duplicate. Or you can press duplicate over here on top of the layers panel. And this one I will cut from yellow. Oh, a bit brighter than that. Okay, so this one we need to turn into a frame and it's going to go over the top to hide the edges and extend them. So this is 7.75. Let's just go arrange, bring to front. I might actually make it a little bit smaller. Let's go 7.5, just so I've got a bit more overlap space. Okay, good. So now I can right click and duplicate this yellow. Why does it go over there? This yellow one. I'll make it white for now. And then that has to be slightly bigger than this. So this is 7.5. So let's go 7.65. Just a little bit bigger. In there, and then that one will be, you know what, that was wrong, forgive me. This has to be slightly smaller than the frame, so let's go 7.3. Okay, that was what I wanted to do because it has to overlap the black so that we've got somewhere to stick it. So that's now slightly smaller. You can see you've got that little bit of black showing through. Okay, perfect. Select both of those squares and go align center so that they're directly in the middle of each other. And then press slice to cut out that white square from the yellow. Delete the white layer and the middle square layer, and then you've just got the border. So what we're going to do is cut out our shadow box layers and then stick this over that very, very top layer. Remember, this is the size of my frame. So then I'll put this one on the very back of the bottom layer of the shadow box. I'm basically making a sandwich out of all of these layers so that it will fit perfectly into my frame. This is now all ready to cut out, so I can press make it on the top. And it will separate everything out into the colours. So let's change all of these sizes. And if you want to, you can move things about to save space. So for example, on this white one, if you move those 3 little bits inside there, this bit is actually going to be cut out. You're not going to use it. So we might as well use up some of that space. Make sure you don't do something like that and put it on the edges because you do need those edges. They're going to be part of your design, so you don't want to be cutting extra things out of them. When you're happy with how everything is looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut machine, get everything cut out from cardstock, and then I'll show you how to stick your shadow box together, including making a little shadow box sandwich so that it'll fit in the frame. Here are all of my layers of the shadow box cut out from my A4 cardstock. And then I've also got my black square to go at the bottom and my one to go out on the top, which I cut from 12 by 12 inch cardstock. So you can see if I put it next to it, they are a little bit bigger. And when it comes to my frame, let's just show, this will fit perfectly inside. So we're basically going to assemble the shadow box layers first, and then we'll stick this on the back and this on the front like this to kind of make it look like it is the full size of the frame, and then it will fit in perfectly. Okay, so as with all shadow box designs, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way upwards. So I need to move all of these layers apart. I'm going to try and keep similar layers together so that it's easier to put together. But as with all my layered SVGs, this does come with an assembly guide. So have a little look at that as it shows you which order to stick the layers together in. We need to start with the very two bottom layers, which is my blue square, and then the lighter one, which makes the detail of the bricks. This is going to be a glue layer because the bricks are so narrow that you wouldn't be able to get your foam squares in there. The glue I'm using is called Collall. I really like it because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some glues can do. And I've put it into these needle tip applicator bottles, which means it's going to be really easy to get the glue in all of these small spaces. So let's turn this upside down and add some glue. As this is our bottom layer, you want to add quite a bit of glue because it's going to have the weight of all the other layers on top of it. So we need to make sure it's not accidentally going to come off. Now we can turn it the right way up and stick it onto that bottom layer. And then whilst the glue's still wet, just wiggle it around so it lines up perfectly on every side. There. The next layer of the shadow box is this red one, and this will be a foam square layer to give it some dimension. So I turn it upside down. And then my foam squares, they were quite big, so I've cut them in half with a pair of scissors to make them go a little bit further, which is why they are all in little pieces rather than on one sheet. This is a big piece for our shadow box, so we're going to need quite a few foam squares to give it lots of stability on this side and to stop the cardstock from sagging. First, I'll start by putting my foam squares all the way around the edge. As well as doing that, we also need to put some in this middle bit. Again, that's to create a stable layer of all of this foam. Otherwise, this part is going to dome downwards without anything to support it, and you won't get as good a 3D appearance. I'm also going to put some into the bat wings for the same reason. Make sure your foam doesn't go over any of the gaps, otherwise you'll see it when you turn the layer over, and we don't want to be able to see any of this foam, we want it to be nice and hidden. Now that's done, I can peel the tops off of the foam pads to reveal all of the stickiness underneath. They're now all off. Let's bring in our original layers, and then we need to line this up so that the sides are perfectly aligned. Oh, we've got a stray bit of something on there. All right, so I'm going to line these up and then let go and just let it gently drop. And the reason for that is that if I hadn't quite lined it up properly, because it hasn't actually stuck yet, I could pick it up and move it without damaging anything. But that's looking good to me, so I'm going to push down to get everything stuck together. Okay, next layer is the white one here. And this will be another foam layer because we want that little bit of dimension between the door and then the ghost poking out. This one will be a little bit hard to see because it's a bit of white cardstock on a white background, but I'm just going to do exactly the same as before. So start by going around the edge and then put lots of foam in the middle too. Once all the foam squares are in place, again, peel the sticky off. Just realised I've missed a little bit in there. So now I can peel that sticky off. I'm going to cut a little bit of tiny foam to go underneath that spider because I don't want it to sort of drop downwards and not be quite the same level as anything else. So I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors, cut this super duper tiny and put on the back of the spider. Oops, sticking myself to it. There we go. Right. Let's line it up again, exactly the same. And gently drop down. And then push down when you're happy. I'm glad I put that bit under the spider actually, otherwise it would have dropped down and be touching the red rather than a little bit raised up. The next layer we have is the last kind of full outline, which is going to go on here. And it's also got the little spider and the cat. So for the cat, I'm going to glue that one and then we'll foam the rest so that it looks like it's out further than the cat. I'm going to glue the little spider too, I think, but you could use foam for that. It's up to you. And then the rest of the layer will be done with some foam. This is our final time of lining up all the edges. Okay, so you see how you've got that little bit of dimension between the cat and the outside, which just makes it look that little bit more realistic. And then next we've got the purple piece to go on here. And it's up to you on this one whether you glue it or foam it. But personally, I think glue looks better because we've already got the raised effect from this part of the black. So we don't really need to raise it again. And we're also going to have other layers to go on top. So my personal preference for this bit is to glue it. Right, now we're on to the middle sections, which I'll just put in here. I'm going to move my pieces apart. And we're starting with the yellow on here, which will be a foam layer. This then goes onto the design in the middle, so you're lining it up with the other shapes that are already there. And then the one to go on top of that is the black layer, which gives you the rest of the door around there, and this is a glue layer. That sits snugly on top, so it just shows the yellow coming through the door. And then we've got the door step along the bottom, which is this red piece, which is another glue layer. We're very nearly there now. We just need to add the little details of the ghost hands and the bats, and we've got the little skull mocker on the door. For the skull and the ghost hands, I'm going to glue those. The skull because it would be too small to do anything else, and the ghost hands because this is already really raised up from the ghost, so I don't want to add an extra level of foam to them because I think it'll just be too much. It won't look like he's hanging on to the outside of the door frame. I think I might have put the glue on the wrong way around there. Oopsie. You can check your assembly guide for the correct way around to put it, but I haven't made the guide yet and I'm nowhere near my computer, so I think I'll have to put up with it being wrong. That's a shame. There we go. Never mind. He still looks okay. For the bats, I'm going to use some foam to make them stand out a bit from the background because my dark grey and my black are very, very similar. So if I just glued them on, I don't think they'd show up very well. But a bit of foam will add the dimension it needs. And I'm going to cut this in half. Ooh, very nearly cut my fingers. This is very, very small. There we go. I lost one of them then. So that I can get a little piece in each wing. So I need one more teeny tiny, oh, I've got a thin bit here. Hopefully this will be thin enough. Yes. Fab. Right. Stick these on. One bat. And two bats. Right, last but by no means least, we've got our little pumpkin on the front, which is made up of 3 layers. The bottom one, the black one, will be foamed, and then the other 2 will be glued on top. And there's one, and this one will be glued. Here we go. And then finally the detail layer, which again is a glue layer. Like that. And that's our Halloween shadow box layers all ready. So now we need to bring in our large layers if you've cut them. If you have cut it straight to go in your shadow box, then just wait for all the glue to dry and you can put it straight in there. But I'm going to need to use my other layers. So for this one, it's just going to be stuck right in the middle of this one. And I'm going to use blue tack for this rather than glue so that if I ever get a smaller frame in the future, I can just take it out and get rid of these bits. So this is just sticky, almost like rubber that you use for sticking things straight on the wall. Oh no, you can peel it off without making any damage. And is my glue dry enough? Yeah. Turn this upside down. Add some bits of blue tack to the back. You want quite a bit to make sure it's going to stick. But the good thing is this is really reusable. So if you ever take it out the frame, like maybe if you don't want it in there after Halloween, then you can just take the bits of blue tack off and use them again for something else. Right. And then this will go in the middle. I'm really bad at sticking stuff straight. I think that's straight-ish. I could just push down where that blue tack is. And now you see it's stuck. And then next I need to put the front on. So this is going to go on here and we've just got that little overlap on the side. Don't think I'll be able to get away with blue tack on this one because it's such a narrow area where it's overlapping. So on this one I'll have to glue it, which is a shame. But if you needed to in the future, you can just trim it down. So you could just take that back bit off, turn it upside down, and then use a craft knife to just go down the edges to take off that excess trim. So I'm going to put my glue just right on the edge. Really, really little bit because it's only overlapping by a tiny amount. Go down every side. And try and make sure it's lining up with the edges of that black one underneath. otherwise it won't fit in your shadow box. Okay, I'm going to give that a few seconds to dry, and then we will put our finished little shadow box all together in the frame. Here's my frame, and I'm going to try it with and without the spacer in to see which looks better. So put my spacer back in there. Let's turn it around this way. My frame, this is a frame I just used for testing my designs, and most of the little tabs are missing, so it doesn't go together brilliantly, but it should be fine just to show that this works. So now I can put that in there. It lines up perfectly in the frame, and then I would put the back on. Now, because this has come so close to the edge of my frame, it means when that back goes in, it's going to squidge my foam squares together, and you're going to lose some of that dimension effect. So if I turn it round, it still does look quite dimensional, which is great, but it's not as much as it could be. And you see it's sort of pushing in at the sides a little bit. And that's because the spacer is still in the frame. So if we do it the other way around and take it out. Oh no, I've got it stuck. Okay. Take the spacer out. And if I put this in now, it will be much better dimensioned, but you see there's loads and loads of gap in the frame. When the bits are closed, it's all going to move about. So it's up to you which one you do. If you do it this way, where you put it straight in the frame, then a way you can help the back go on better is to cut some fun foam or thick cardboard or craft board or something like that and put it into the back. So just cut it to the size of your frame, stick a few layers of foam or something in there, as in actually funky foam sheets that you buy in the big rectangles, or craft board, even like an Amazon box that you've cut up, just something to bring that depth in so that when you put that on, it sits further to the back, and then your little tabs will fit in properly. Another thing you can do, which takes a little bit more time, is you can cut thin strips of white funky foam and then stick them on the inside along this line, so glue them in, and then do maybe 2 or 3 layers of that, depending on how thick your foam is. And then your design will sit on top of that, which means it will be a little bit further back, and that means that when it's in there, it will sit further back to the little lines, tabs, so you'll be able to close them up easier. So there are a few more extra hacks for getting your shadow box to fit perfectly in the frame. But for now, I think I'm going to put it in with the spacer in, just so that I can get it all sealed up and ready to show you the finished effect. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make this Halloween shadow box. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut papercraft tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you tomorrow for day 18 of the Halloween craft countdown. Bye!